All right, we were talking about feelings. Sometimes people can't locate feelings. They've been so up in their head and they've been so strong and so functional for so long that you can say, hey, no, I don't have any feelings. I don't feel nothing. I'm just a machine, man. I just function. I do my job. Well, sometimes you need some help. And a great tool to locate feelings is called telling a war story. So you tell a little story concerning something that went on in military life. It could be combat related. It could be non-combat related. There's a lot of people that have a lot of stress just by being in an environment where they were doing their job, but they were always around high-stressed people that were, and they just kind of felt that for 20, 30 years, and you get that all. It's a lot of stress to work in for that many years, and then they leave it and they realize what they were in. Sometimes it affects their health. So, if you can't locate your feelings, and if there is a loop that plays in your mind, every now and then you may walk into a certain room in your house, and all of a sudden, bam! It's like, whoo! There it goes again. It comes back around, and it's like. Okay, you got to change focus, do that, shut it down, edit. A great way to edit is to look and see what feelings are connected to the loop, the war story. So if you look at the war story, an example of a war story would be, I had to drive into the crowd. I was commanded to drive into the crowd. We were firing all our weapons. I felt horrible about it because there were civilians there and some of them got hurt and maybe died. Okay, so that's a little war story. There's a lot of emotionally charged things there in that little war story. Beginning of it, I was commanded to drive into the crowd, and it was like, okay, that's not a normal function that people do in their daily life. So that's a military experience. Command it, got to follow orders. Somebody else commanded him to do that. So I don't feel right about it, but still I got to do it. For the sake of the oath, for the sake of the chain of command, for the sake of the mission. Push down how you feel. You're not allowed to feel. You're not allowed to let those feelings control your behavior. You're supposed to let your training, your good information, your good intel, your logic control your behavior. So yeah, just because feelings weren't allowed doesn't mean that they weren't present. They were there. They were just pushed down. A great tool to help locate feelings, especially sometimes suppressed feelings, is to answer the question, is there a loop that's playing in my mind? Is there something that keeps going around and I don't start it, it starts by itself, and it takes a while to shut it down. If there is a loop there, well then that's an indicator that there's some feelings that need to be dealt with concerning that loop. That's a good place to look concerning subversive activity of the enemy. Now, the enemy is pain, and pain wants to steal your whole life, wants to steal everything you got. Pain may come at you straight up, or it may come as a subversive attack. Pain will use a Fabian socialistic type of tactic and gradually wear you down, attack your critical systems, undermine the authority of your will, and then it will kind of cause you to give up, because that's what pain wants you to do, wants you to surrender all, but you don't have to surrender to pain. You make a choice. You could take pain out. You got to take pain out. You got to locate it. You got to locate what's feeding it. You got to take out the supply line to pain. If pain is being supplied by something, you got to shut that down. Let's go back to the war story. War stories can help you locate feelings that are keeping pain in place. You tell a war story, and it could be anything. It could be something simple, but if it's playing as a loop in your mind, it's your war story, and you need to talk about it. Actually, just talking about it, you'll feel better. Better yet, write it down. Write down how you're feeling, and verbatim. Write down the conversation. Write down different perspectives. All of that will help process stuff. Once you locate the presence of negative feelings, you have a target. You have something to work on. Now you have something to process out. You take out the negative feelings, the body will heal, the mind can refocus, recalibrate, the body will recalibrate, and you get back to living. instead of living in the past. You start gives you more power to move forward. That's the power of that's the war story, telling the war story. No, my little war stories are, I think they're insignificant concerning some of the war stories that I have heard. I've heard about men that were frozen in the North Sea or frozen in the Chozone Valley or torpedoed in the Atlantic, or they fought in the Gulf War, been in Bosnia, Kosovo, Panama, Grenada. I've listened to stories from these men, and they talk about the things that they went through. And one thing they have in common is there's emotionally charged events in their war stories. Vietnam, a lot of Vietnam veterans are still coming home. They have a lot of emotionally charged stories in their events. I think they know they need to talk about them. I think that's pretty common knowledge. So talking about them is a wonderful tool. Sometimes it doesn't get it all out, and so you need other tools. You need to know how to locate the presence of negative feelings, and then how to take out those negative feelings. Negative feelings are the subversive enemy that is undermining your critical systems. If you run a patrol into the realm of your feelings, you do a little recon down there, you can start looking around and you can start answering some questions as to where these feelings came from. When did they start? How are they causing me to react? What is these feelings, these negative feelings, what are they taking from my life? And you can decide a course of action after you define the feelings and define what it's doing, where it's coming from. It's always good to define a course of action. Immediate action is always best. Feelings can be located with a war story. Tell your war story, find an emotionally charged hotspot, take a patrol into your feelings. Just sit there and say, hey, I feel a certain way. I feel a little confused. I feel a little fearful. I feel a little sad. So whatever you're feeling, be honest about it. Talk about it. Feelings are feelings. We call them feelings because you feel them. It's not something that's dissociated from the human psyche. It's part of us. It's part of who we are. As men, we say, hey, well, I don't feel. Right, yeah. Everybody feels. However, if you push down so many negative feelings down into your soul, and you got them down there, and you're holding them down there, you're spending all your emotional energy maintaining your feelings, and there's all this negative stuff, you can't open up your life to love. You can't open up your life to happiness, to reconnect with life because of all this negativity that's popped up. So you got to know the tools in order to get the negativity out of your life so you can get back to loving and celebrating life. I'm Chaplain Joe. I need you to prepare to live.